Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on the Arrowverse as a whole. And for today's video, we have some big news regarding the DCTV multiverse and the Arrowverse through a brand new Arrowverse crossover being announced and confirmed. However, this is not in the way we think. I am really looking forward to this crossover, but I am also very apprehensive at the same time. But yeah, this news is coming from Newsarama, and I will leave a link of the article in the description down below in case you guys want to check it out after this breakdown. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so the article kicks off as follows. The Arrowverse comes full circle with its first comic book crossover event, Earth Prime. The Arrowverse assembles in comics for the Earth Prime event. The CW's DC television shows are coming full circle to a comic book event set in the canon of the Arrowverse universe. Launching April 5th, Earth Prime is a 3-month 6-issue event with the first 5 issues spotlighting a current individual CW or DC series, with the final issue, Earth Prime issue 6, being a full-on Arrowverse crossover. Actors, writers, and even showrunners from the shows will be involved in the creation of each double-sized issue approved by the show's producers. With the unlimited possibilities of comic books, the event could potentially feature characters, settings, and action sequences not possible on the budgets of a weekly TV series, and could also include the possible returns from Arrow, Supergirl, and Black Lightning, all series no longer in production characters. So yeah, this is really cool, and I really love this because they are adding more things in the canon of the Arrowverse through this comic book, and that is something I really like, and it gives me more content to push out for you guys as well. I could make videos talking about these comic books as well. But what I also really like is that they will no longer be reliant on the availability of certain actors or budget restrictions to do certain stuff, because this is a comic book which is canon in the Arrowverse. So they could literally do anything they want. And this is something I do genuinely find really interesting. And hopefully they do more of these in the future, because I would really love to see things like, even when The Flash or another certain Arrowverse show ends, we could actually see what these other characters are up to off screen as well. So say like in the Flash series finale, Barry Allen was just to, retire. He's to give, let's say, Wally the suit. We could get an Arrowverse comic seeing Wally as the Flash, and that would be really interesting. They could also make these comic books set in between seasons, because in between seasons we do usually have a time jump by a couple of months. So they could make comic books where they would fill in the gaps of those months, and we could actually see what these characters have been up to prior to the season starting. That would be something really, really cool as well. Now, although I am really open to this idea, and I do really like the concept of us getting a canon crossover set in the Arrowverse as a comic book, I do hope that these events in these comics do not affect anything from the on-screen story, because they do have to understand that a lot of the fans in the Arrowverse who are watching the shows are not comic readers. I know a lot of people who watch the shows but are not comic readers. So if they establish certain stuff which the audience are required to know going into a specific on-screen story, I would absolutely hate that. That would just be awful. So as long as these stories don't impact the live action stuff, I would just be totally fine with it. I would be 100% on board with it, and I would think it's a really good idea. But if they were to mess with the on-screen stuff with these comic books, and then later on in the live action series they allude to the events taking place in the comics, I would absolutely hate that, because it would get the audience so confused, and it will just make a lot of things very messy. So hopefully they don't do certain things like that. I do really like how this opens the doors for many characters to make a returning appearance as well, especially with the fact that they no longer have to rely on a specific actor's availability, because this is a comic, it is not a show that they're filming. So they could literally incorporate any character they wish. So we could get Oliver Queen returning as the Spectre, we could get Supergirl returning as well. because they would be able to do it. They don't have to get Melissa to fly from somewhere to another, and they don't have to get Stephen Amell to do the same thing, because this is a comic book. They don't need to get any of them to act or do certain things. The only thing which would really remain quite similar is that the characters from the comic books would look similar to their on-screen actors. That would pretty much just be it. From my understanding, this crossover comic takes place prior to the Armageddon event from The Flash. The timeline is very confusing due to the synopsis of the 2 issues, which I will get into in just a bit. But this could also do a lot of potential setups, such as Diggle's spin-off show, The Justice U. If they were to actually greenlight the show, they could set this up in this crossover comic as well. This does seem like the beginning of something big in regards to the comic book side of things for the Arrowverse, so maybe we could finally get some bows tied to certain stories if they are to make more comic books just like this. So maybe they could eventually establish a Green Arrow and the Canaries comic, and we could actually find out what's happening on with that story through that comic. I do really like how they do get everyone from behind the scenes getting involved in these comics as well. So since this is canon, we will still, as the article said, have actors, writers, and showrunners being involved in this as if it was just a regular crossover. But continuing on with the article in regards to this comic book crossover, DC has released information about the first 2 issues, both on sale in April. Here's a rundown. The event kicks off April 5th with Earth Prime issue number 1 featuring characters from the Batwoman TV series. The story starts with the titular new Batwoman, Ryan Wilder, dealing with classic Batman villain Clayface, making his Arrowverse in Continuity debut, who binds himself to a local high school student, along with Luke Fox, who deals with being both a new superhero and a boyfriend. Earth Prime issue 1 will be written by show writers Natalie Abrams and Kelly Larson, along with the Luke Fox / Batwing actor Cameron Johnson. That is pretty cool. I do really like that. But the comic book veteran Clayton Henry draws the issue. And then going into the issue for Superman and Lois, in this issue of Earth Prime, Clark and Lois celebrate their first wedding anniversary but are pulled off track by their respective careers as a superhero and a reporter. Plus the origins of the evil Superman variant from Earth TUD-22 that's been teased in the first 2 seasons of the show will finally be explored directly. Earth Prime issue 2 will be written by Superman and Lois writers Adam Malinger, Jay Jamison, and Andrew Wong. Classic Superman artist Tom Grummett will be drawing the issue with inker Norm Rapmund. Both of the issues of Earth Prime feature covers by Kim Jacinto along with a Batwoman and Superman and Lois photo variant cover for the first and second issue respectively. Earth Prime issues 3 through 5 will feature stories set in the continuity of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Stargirl, solidifying the series' loose ties to the Arrowverse, and The Flash, all written or co-written by creative talent from the shows. All of the first 5 issues will also feature bonus material created by cast members of the shows, along with teasers that give readers clues to the nature of the final crossover in the issue 6, according to DC. While the first 5 issues are based on the current DCTV lineup, as we mentioned, appearances by characters from any previous or current Arrowverse show in any issue, but especially the 6th crossover, is possible, including in development series like Gotham Knights and Justice U. Now, the timeline for this is very messy, and I can't piece together when exactly this takes place, because the Batwoman issue definitely takes place after the season 2 finale, because that is when Luke Fox becomes Batwing. And the synopsis from the DC press site does also mention that Batman's villains' gadgets are out there across Gotham, and during season 3 they're all collected. So the Batwoman comic definitely takes place prior to season 3 and after the season 2 finale. In terms of Superman and Lois, it definitely takes place prior to season 1, and it will be years back, because over here Clark and Lois are celebrating their first wedding anniversary on the show, and they have been married for many years now because the Elseworlds proposal is rewritten due to crisis, and Clark and Lois have kids who are 14 to 16 years old. I can't remember how old they were, but they're around there. Unless this comic contains flashbacks as well as some stuff during the present day, then it could just be set in present day during somewhere like after season 1 and basically in between season 1 and season 2, or once again, it could be taking place prior to season 1 as well. I do really like how they are exploring the origins of the evil Superman from John Henry Irons' Earth, though. That is pretty cool. But here comes something I absolutely despise. I absolutely hate this. So as mentioned before when reading the article, Earth Prime's issues 3 to 5 will feature stories set in the continuity of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Stargirl solidifying the series' loose ties with the Arrowverse and The Flash. And then they obviously go on to mention the crossover. So here, they are finally setting up the multiverse with bringing Stargirl into the Arrowverse and interacting with characters like The Flash. This should be in live action. This is the first encounter they're ever going to have, and it's taking place in a comic book. So when people don't read the comics, just casually watch the shows, and we have Courtney just saying something random like, "Oh, hi Barry," or something like, "Oh, maybe we can get Barry's help to solve this certain issue," the audience would just be wondering, wait, what? When did they ever meet? It will be so jumbled up. It will be so messy and so confusing. I hate this. This should have been in live action. This is something huge that's happening, so these things should have been taking place on the on-screen stuff, not a comic book. I do get that Stargirl films in Atlanta and the Flash films in Vancouver, so already getting characters crossing over will be hard, but regardless, this should have been something taking place in live action instead of a comic book. So guys, future Flashverse is speaking right now because something did pop into my mind in regards to the whole Flash and Stargirl situation, and it is that this crossover could be set in the future. So although the article does say that this crossover introduces Stargirl to the Arrowverse, they could be pulling something like an Armageddon where we have Batwoman interacting with characters of Team Flash, and she's had a 10-year friendship with Iris, but we didn't know that. So when they're saying the first time Stargirl's entering the Arrowverse, it technically does mean that. So there is a chance that it could be set in the future. So although it's not their first proper interaction where Stargirl and the Flash meet for the first time, this could be set in the future where it looks like they've already had an established friendship and all that sorts of stuff. It is very possible that they could do that as well. Now, in regards to when issues 3 to 5 of Earth Prime is set, once again, I would say it takes place before a season. So I would say it takes place prior to the Armageddon event of The Flash Season 8. Because I am predicting that it is possible that this crossover comic could explore the Felix Faust stuff mentioned in Armageddon, because in episode 3 they did mention that the Justice League of the Arrowverse faced off against Felix Faust.
We need to call in the others.
We don't have time.
No, Kara, John, Sarah, we all designed this plan together after Faust.
Obviously, this was sometime prior to the Flash Season 8, and we did not see this happen. So seeing what happens with that through a comic would be something really cool. So that is why I think that we could possibly be getting the Felix Faust stuff for this crossover comic. So overall, I do really like this idea. I think it's an interesting idea, and it just reassures the fans that the Arrowverse isn't going anywhere because they're aiming bigger. They're not going for the comics, and that is something I really like because we are getting more things in canon. But, and this is a big but, I really hope they consider the fact that these events in these comics should not affect anything from the on-screen story, because they do have to understand, I've mentioned this before, but they really need to understand that a lot of the fans watching the Arrowverse are not comic book readers. Because say we got something like a timeline change taking place from this comic, or maybe some character ends up dying in this comic, and when this event is referred to on screen, the audience would just be clueless. So hopefully they take something like this in consideration. But as I said, overall, I do really like this idea, and I personally think that it's very cool. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below what you guys think about all of this. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.